What is up, everybody? It's Reverse here today. So apparently, there's been an update on the whole Days Gone situation. Remember when the ex-game developer for Days Gone, Jeff Ross, came out and said, "Hey, because of Ghost of Tsushima sold over 8 million copies, people are happy about Ghost of Tsushima." But then he came out and said, "Hey, our game Days Gone sold that much as well." But that might have been a slight fib on his part because. So actually, some news sources said it might have not been that high actually. So apparently, when Jeff Ross went on a podcast with David Jaffe, they did a podcast talking about the numbers of the statement that he made that got a lot of attention to it. That people were talking about all over pretty much Twitter about this. His Days Gone selling 8 million. They didn't continue with the sequel. And then he says where he got his data from. Ross said, "Where I got my data from, I had access to a lot of telemetry, and I could see stuff. And when we were at 5 million copies, when we were announced at 5 million copies, the telemetry data was at 5.8 million. There are basically resales of shared disk. I was actually using an external website. So I'm assuming he's saying it's like 5.8 million, not 8 million. I mean, 6 million is 2 million difference from 8 million, but okay." And then it got to a point where he's talking about like trophy data. Like, let me see what it talks about. He's like using trophy data. Okay, so it says during Jeffrey's stream, Ross also said the telemetry that he's referring to what he's seen by him before Days Gone was released as PlayStation Plus title in 2021. So this is released as a PlayStation Plus title. So this is given pretty much essentially for free if you have the PS Plus subscription. Well, not free, but it was given away on PS Plus. So, I mean, that kind of don't add to purchases, to be honest. And it could account for like used copies of the game as well. Like somebody get done with the game, somebody beat the game, then they trade in the GameStop, then somebody else buys the game, then they have a new copy of the game. So, I mean, it's not this is definitely skewing the data. So this is definitely skewing the data that he cited as copies sold. There's a lot of factors into this while the trophy count could be at 8 million. Like, so he made all that fuss online, and he wasn't even right about how much his game sold. Like at least with Ghost of Tsushima, the numbers are actually out there. But for this game, the numbers aren't even out there. He's going about trophy data, so. It's like, I can't really take this guy serious at this point. It's like you're skewing the data. And not only did you rain on the Sucker Punch parade when people were praising that game for the success that they did, not only did you rain on that parade, it made him all about himself, but his data was wrong at that too. Like, it's looking bad out here. And like I said before in my other video, I thought Days Gone was okay. Definitely wasn't an amazing game. While Ghost of Tsushima, I thought that game was simply amazing. I'm glad that we actually had a samurai game that wasn't like based on like the whole Dark Souls type of thing where you get killed repeatedly. You can actually just an enjoyable game. I didn't have to be stressed out about playing. So while Days Gone was very mediocre, sure, with a sequel they could fix a lot of problems that the first one had, especially like the length of the game being way too long. They could condense that, but the game was just mediocre. It was just mediocre. I mean, and like I said, with a sequel, they could fix it. But if Sony didn't want to go with that game, they didn't go to a sequel, then what can you do about it? It's like, it is what it is at that point. But let's see what people had to say about this new revelation that this guy was definitely off about his numbers, or there's a lot of factors in his numbers that he was getting. So LMAO. If you're gonna talk S, you better learn how to take S. It's always sad to see when people like him runs his mouth. Sounds like he needs to retract what he said and say sorry. So all of it was just based on speculations. Yeah, kind of had the feeling the entire time that is some funny us. Days Gone and Ben, why would Sony do this? It's true they made a fun game about gameplay being the primary pull. He even states that it's when a rocky development and almost did not release. Why is he complaining so much? I don't know. He must really want a sequel badly because he's complaining a lot about this game. Ouch, lol, what a burn. Always take the words of a disgruntled former employee with a grain of salt. Yeah, you probably shouldn't take the words. I didn't know. I guess he is kind of disgruntled, but yeah, you shouldn't take the words of somebody who just left the company, who had a bad leaving with the company. You shouldn't take their opinion seriously, to be honest. There's no way it sold 8 million. Trophy tracker is not an accurate way to measure sales. All the people that were mad at Sony yesterday might want to think things through. This is like a repeat of when an ex-employee, Jonathan Cooper, was trying to trash Naughty Dog out of spite and brought his ex-coworkers into the mix, only for them to put him in his place. I forgot about that situation. Bruh, I just want a Days Gone 2. My man, Days Gone was so good personally. One of my favorite zombie games. The ending was crazy. Doesn't matter either way. I'm sure I can speak for a lot of people that played this game that I would gladly pre-order the sequel. Phenomenal game. I mean, yeah, they made a sequel. I probably would pre-order. I wouldn't pre-order, but I would definitely play it if they made a sequel. But I don't think that's gonna happen. So they're looking for they are looking for an excuse for not making a second part. No surprise. To be honest, I thought the game Days Gone was really good, despite all the biased people talking mad us about it. But otherwise, if you haven't played it, go play it. It's very good. There's a difference between 8 million at full price or $10 off and almost 8 million at 50% sales discount price. Ghost of Tsushima literally made me buy a PlayStation again for that game. It's a masterpiece. Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima was definitely a surprise of the last few years from PlayStation. I definitely give them credit for that game. Even when it was the year that it was going against Last of Us 2 for Game of the Year, I thought that game should have been Game of the Year over The Last of Us 2. To be honest, that game was phenomenal. Let's see. Pretty sure a game selling 5 million or less is still pretty good. A sequel would be nice. I mean, is 5 million really that good when it has like 130 install base? I don't know if that's that good or not. 130 million install base. So what is that? Like, that's like less than 10, like 5% of people who own a PS4 or PS5 bought that game. I don't know. I don't know if that's good. I guess that's good. I don't know. He says the source is dude. Trust me, I made it up. A source. That's a bad source to count for a game that's on PS Plus. Yeah, that don't make any sense. Why would you count a game that was good from PS Plus? Why would you go about trophy sales for a game that was good on PS Plus as a factor to determine how much the game sold? That doesn't make any sense. Some games achieve universal acclaim and others don't. At the end of the day, Days Gone was competent but never hit the culture impact mark. There is no shame in that, but it's shameful to be grieving about it years later. Yeah, it's time to move on. It's definitely time to move on at this point. He also mentioned it was a month and a half before he left in December 2020 and before the PSN Plus. The game went to Steam in April 2021 and still kept selling around 1 million. Stop pouring gasoline for clicks. Bro, what the F? I knew it was a lie when I saw his tweet. Days Gone 8 million. Yeah, I mean, when you think of it, that is kind of shocking. I mean, that game was very mediocre. So I don't know. I mean, 8 million. Then again, they have a large install base, but that's kind of a large number right there. Embarrassing. That story spread like wildfire the past 2 days, thanks to media outlets and game and Twitter personalities being lazy with fact checking as usual. The worst Halo sold more than this and still has more active users. I don't know what's the worst Halo he's referring to. ODST. I think that people dislike that one the most. I think that's what he's referring to. How the F does a director don't even know how much a game sold? He's not involved in the company anymore, so how would he have solid sales figures? Okay, yeah. That's not what he said. If I remember correctly, he mentioned that shortly before he left the studio, he saw a stat tracking website that matched with the studio's sales metrics. Numbers don't change the reality. Sony execs are a disappointment anyways. Jeez. I mean, Halo Infinite haven't sold that many units and probably won't, so yeah, it should be a success. What does Halo... Why do you keep mentioning Halo? Like, what does Xbox... Even still, they can't stop thinking about Xbox. This is all about Sony. They still talking about Xbox and Xbox games. Like, what does that have to do with Sony at all? Like, jeez. Days Gone was brilliant a year after launch. They might have sold 8 million games when it was at $20. If John really wanted a sequel, he wouldn't have released a half-baked game. That's not what Sony does. He should know better. Knew it was BS. Ghost of Tsushima was the fast-selling new IP in Sony's history. Even if the total numbers were comparable, not all sales are equal. A lot of Days Gone sales came much later after heavy discounting because the game launched in a poor state. The guy is clearly just disgruntled and wants to batter Sony. They didn't say it was a failure because of sales, it was because of the reviews. Yeah, that game didn't do too well on Metacritic at all. This guy is unhinged. I actually did some digging after this little rant, and it's not even close to 8 million. Yeah, that's kind of, if it's not, yeah, that's kind of disappointing. If you did this whole rant on Twitter just saying, "Hey, Sony, let us go. We sold the same amount of copies as Ghost of Tsushima." Then it's actually like you actually didn't sell that many copies. That is very, that's kind of embarrassing. That's kind of a little embarrassing right there. I knew the numbers were off. It's a bloody overrated game to say the least. Sony put in some PR work, I see. Sony doesn't give a F about sales anyways by Metacritic scores. Is this guy ever gonna stop crying? You hate to see it. Jeez. They are showing like zero compassion towards this guy. I mean, I don't know. The game was effing boring. Wow, he stirred up a bunch of S over nothing, it seems. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. Dated, clunky gameplay with a bad story and bad characters. Has some good ideas that just weren't well executed. Also, Deacon is a dumb name. And it just called him a dummy at the end. So I'm gonna conclude it right here. But yeah, this is definitely a interesting revelation about this whole situation right here. Apparently, the game didn't even sell as much as he thought it did. So that's shocking. So, I mean, like I said before, I'll say it again. I thought the game was okay. It was definitely mediocre. A lot of fixes that we could probably a lot of stuff probably could have been fixed in a sequel, but it seems like Sony isn't gonna do that. So, yeah, definitely want to know your thoughts down below about this. It seems like this guy's numbers was wrong. If you want to hear your insight about this as well in the comment section, leave a like if you like this video. And as always, thanks for watching and peace.